Ready? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, hamdan yuwafi ni'amahu wa yukafi'u mazida wa salatu wa salam ala khayr lanam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. إننا وين التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع والإفادة والاستفادة والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير والحث والتمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسول الله ابتغاء مرضات الله وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. Praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A praise that's worthy of a beneficent benefactor, the bestower of all good in this world, the controller of all things, the creator of all things, the destroyer of all things. And we ask our Lord Most High to send copious and unlimited and eternal blessings and salutations upon our beloved Prophet, Sayyidina Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'd. And we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, and we pay our respects to their elders, past and present. So can everyone have a book to look at? Can everyone see a copy of the text? If you can't, sit next to someone so you can follow along. Brothers, everyone got one? MashaAllah, people downloading things. Tamam. So he says, قال المؤلف الإمام al-Haddad رحمه الله سبحانه وتعالى رضي الله عنه وعنكم نفعنا به وبكم. He says وعليك بإخراج حب الدنيا والدرهم من قلبك حتى يسير عندك بمنزلة الحجر والمدر، وبإخراج حب المنزلة عند الناس من قلبك حتى يستوي عندك مدحهم وذمهم وإقبالهم وإدبارهم، فإن حب الجاه أضر على صاحبه من حب المال، وكلاهما دالان على الرغبة في الدنيا، وأصل حب الجاه حب التعظيم والعظمة من صفات الله سبحانه وتعالى، فهو منازعة للربوبية. وأما المال فإنما أصله حب التمتع بالشهوات، وذلك من صفات البهائم. وقد قال عليه الصلاة والسلام عن الله سبحانه وتعالى: العظمة ردائي والكبرياء العظمة إزاري والكبرياء ردائي، فمن نازعني واحدا منهما فقذفته في النار. وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام: صلوا على رسول الله: ما ذئبان جائعان أرسل في زريبة غنم فأفسد لها من حب الشرف والمال في دين الرجل المسلم. So he says, remove the love of dinars and dirhams from your heart until they become as pebble and sand in your eyes, not literally. Remove the wish to be thought highly of from your heart until you are indifferent to people's praise and condemnation, and to whether they are attracted or repulsed by you. For the love of prominence is more harmful than that of money, and both indicate desire for the world. The basis of the love of prominence is to love being considered great by others. Now, greatness is one of God's attributes, and this thing is therefore disputing His lordship. The basis of the love of money is the love of enjoying one's desires, and this is an attribute of animals. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam, he said, God the Exalted says, greatness is my lower garment, and pride is my upper garment. I shall cast anyone who disputes with me with regard to either of them into the fire of hell. And 2 hungry wolves let loose into the sheep's fold will not devastate it more than do the love of prominence and money in a Muslim's religion. Alright, so alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we're kind of getting to the crux of how an individual really defines themselves as a seeker of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and specifically how a person in that belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in that sayyid, in that travel to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how they avoid the pitfalls that slow one down, or that even when a'udhu billah azza wa jal cast one's travel astray when a'udhu billah. So Imam al-Haddad is setting out for us the simplicity of the path in terms of looking out for the things internally and externally that can, when a'udhu billah, deviate a person and slow a person down. I know we're all happy, alhamdulillah, we're traveling. The thing is that if someone said to you, let's go to the city, you're like, okay, let's go. They said, let's walk, you just think twice about it. If they said, let's crawl, you'd be like, oh, I'm right. If they said, I gotta, whatever, Lamborghini or Ferrari. Do you want to come with me? So, I'll cancel all my appointments and I'll go. And lillah al-mathlu al-a'la, there's no the example of Allah, there's no example like it. But it's the same thing in traveling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Same thing in traveling in any aspect in life. That if the travel, the journey, the path is difficult, then an individual doesn't want to travel that path. If the path is fraught with danger, the individual will want to avoid that path. If the opportunity cost, as the economists say, that if it's going to be too big an output, too big an effort, too big a sacrifice to walk that path, and the reward is not going to be commensurate with that sacrifice or that output, then people aren't going to do it. And hence lies the issue. Hence lies the issue in terms of why people don't travel to Allah. Why people, they just take the outward aspects of the deen. And then the brother was saying to me the other day, he's like, man, I'm doing business, I'm doing this, I'm going here, and the worst people are the ones that pray. The worst people are the ones that have beards. The worst people are this and the worst people are that. He's like, why? I said, well, if they didn't pray, they didn't have beards, imagine how bad they'd be. At least that's something that's protecting them a little bit. So the reality is taking the outward aspects only of the deen, only just what we think we understand of the faith, it's not enough. It's not going to get us to reach our journey and our destination. And the journey that we take in reaching that destination, firstly, destination isn't even that great in and of itself. Oh, you want to go to like George's River. Well, that's all right, but he really wants to go to George's River. It's polluted, it's kind of stank, you really can't do much there. Maybe not. But if you say let's go, I don't know, Bondi or somewhere, there's food, there's different people, there's the beach, it's a famous place, whatever the case might be. And so the person that takes just the outward aspects of the faith, then there's no reason to change. There's no reason to strive. There's no reason to struggle, that word jihad. There's no reason to fight against one's inclinations and desires, because what they're looking at is like a crusty old, one of those El Cheapo pizzas that really doesn't taste very good, and you're just paying the money just because you haven't got much money and you just want to fill up your stomach, rather than a 5-course gourmet meal with whatever else, as the examples go. So that's the first thing, is to see is the destination worth it? And then secondarily, the journey to get there, the sacrifice, the cost I have to pay, in whatever terms one wants to consider or think about it, is it going to be worth it? Is it going to be worth it? And when one looks at the outward aspects of the deen, it's not. It's not. Pray. Who wants to pray? We want to party, not pray. Fast. Who wants to fast? We want to feast, not fast, which is coming up in 3 months, inshallah, so you better get ready. So, give money. I want to spend money. I don't want to give out money. Go to Hajj. What for? It's just rocks. Go there, throw rocks, go around rocks, between rocks. That's what it is, but that's what the outward aspects of the faith are. The outward, that's what they are. If someone tells me off, I just got to be good with them. What? I want to smash him. I want to bring my boys and stab him, or whatever we do these days, shoot him or whatever, drag him behind the car, whatever it is. Okay? Dress in a particular way, what do you mean? Why should I dress in that way? So when the person doesn't understand the goal, they're not going to worry about the path. They're not even today at the khutbah, the guy's getting up, first thing he says, the nice first khutbah was very nice. The second khutbah, he gets up and he says that, I'm not a sheikh, but don't listen to the sheikhs. What? All right, okay. Where's this bloke going? What's he? They're all corrupted and they're all this, and you don't need it. You just learn it yourself. And what are you talking about? What are you talking about? How can you not have a teacher? Don't worry about the word sheikh. Just take that word out. That's just something that means old man. It means someone who's wise. Teacher. How can you not have a teacher? When you learn how to drive a car, if you drove yourself, the car would be mangled. You're going to have so many accidents and how many insurance claims against you. Well, when we got sick last time, we didn't go and download. That's actually a new phenomenon. I can't remember what it's called now, but people self-diagnose themselves on Google. They just look up their symptoms like, yeah, I've got this. What are you talking about? What are you on about? I twisted my leg, I'm just going to do my own surgery because I read about it. It doesn't, my car's broken down. Let's read the book. You know what? Why would I bother? It doesn't make sense, let alone to even. So when we look at the outward aspect of the deen, we're never gonna taste it. We're never gonna even know that there is even a flavour to taste, so to speak. It's not going. And I'm not saying the teachers are be all and end all. I'm saying they're just going to help you. That's all. Everyone needs help. No one can do. No one's what do they say? No man's an island. No one can do it on their own. It's impossible. That doesn't happen. They start on their own, and then the help comes, the support comes, the people around to push them on the way. And so these people have been through it. People like Imam al-Haddad lived it, experienced it, tasted it, and are trying to assist us to find our own way. They don't want to. It's not like other faiths where you have to go through someone to get to God. No, it's not the case at all. I'm not saying that. Whoever says that, of course, that's not right. But it's not kahana, they call it. Kahana, like intermediaries between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They're only the ones that are there just to help us, like the Prophet of Allah, to help us to get to Allah, because we're intertwined in our own na'udhu billah azza wa jal shahawat. And that's the dunya. That's the dunya. That's the different affairs of the world, the different aspects that we've been speaking about previously. And now Imam al-Haddad is taking us to the crux. He's taking us to the crux of what dunya is. The rest was just a build up, because everyone's faces are different from 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago when we started talking about dunya, everyone's like, no, I don't want to hear it. No, don't tell me about dunya, because of the attachment. But Imam Haddad, mashallah, is walking us down that path where we're all like, okay, just give it to me. I'm like, no, I'm not going to give it to you. You're like, come on, tell me what it is. That's because now we're ready, inshallah. The hearts are ready, the minds are ready, the bodies are ready, inshallah, to hear what Imam Haddad is saying. To take in the words, they say the shurba, the drink, that inshallah azza wa jal will illuminate us bi'idhnillah azza wa jal. So as we said, Imam al-Haddad's about to give us the insight really into ourselves, really into our existence on this earth, really into how we should deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how we should deal with the world around us, and how that we can not only benefit from the world around us, but progress and become illuminated, inshallah azza wa jal. So he says, وَعَلَيْكَ بِإِخْرَاجِ حُبَّ الدِّينَارِ وَالدِّرْهَمِ. I think I said dunya when I read it the first time. مِنْ قَلْبِكَ. So he says that, in the English, he says that remove the love of dinars and dirham. So it's dollars and cents, if you want to talk about it in today's language. The old school artists, rappers, they say if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. In other words, that's what the whole philosophy and ideology was, that whatever you have to do in this world, do to make money. And they're only expressing what they've been taught and the culture from which they grew up in. As we said, it's a materialistic, commercialistic society. It's about getting more, not about getting better. But our role in this life is لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, to see which one of you has the best of deeds, the most comprehensive in that sense, the most excellent of deeds. So they're actually kind of the antithesis of each other. They're self-cancelling, because you can't do both. Except ذِكْرُ وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ ذِكْرًا كَثِيرًا. Except for dhikr, just keep doing it all the time, non-stop. Don't worry if you're concentrating or not. As long as you're not in the bathroom or something like that, in the toilet, that's okay. Just keep doing dhikr non-stop, all the time, all the time, all the time. حَتَّى يَسِيرَ عِنْدَكَ بِمَنْزِلَةِ الْحَجَرِ وَالْمَدَرِ. It says, until it's like, in this side, so the sentence kind of doesn't, from your eye, until they become as pebbles and sand in your eyes. So it makes it sound like there's sand in your eyes, but that's not the meaning. In other words, that when you see dollars and when you see cents, if you saw a rock, do you get excited? Unless it's a diamond. Come on, ladies, I know you get excited if you see diamonds. All right, normal rock, pebble, or sand, it's normal. Actually, you want to get rid of it most of the time. It's in your shoes, you went to the beach or whatever. So it's the emotional attachment again to those things. It's not that we don't like money. Alhamdulillah, it's a big number to have money. It's a great blessing, especially if one uses it in a way which is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Charity is the first. I think people are starting to realise that, like the super wealthy people, sports people and whatever else. They're starting to realise that, okay, I got a lot of money, now what? Like what? What's it done for me? So they do charities and help other people that are not as fortunate as they are. And they get that sense of satisfaction. Again, that feeling. Again, that feeling. And this is what Imam Haddad's going to talk about. بإخراج حب المنزلة. This is really the crux. وبإخراج حب المنزلة عند الناس من قلبك حتى يستوي عندك مدحهم وذمهم. And this is it. This is the whole thing, really. It says, remove the wish to be thought highly of from your heart until you are indifferent to people's praise and condemnation. So it doesn't matter whether they praise you or they tell you off. This and you're that and you've done this and whatever else. And there's been a bit of that going around, particularly with some of the scholars, and some of the prominent da'is, or whatever you want to call them. There's a lot going around, so Allah protect us from that. And to whether they're attracted or repulsed by you. So whether they like you on Facebook or don't like you on Facebook's old hat, I understand, but it's old people's thing, medium. So Snapchat, do they like Snapchat as well? Instagram. There's the same. Do you like Instagram as well? So it's likes as well. So if you don't get many likes on Instagram, or you get a lot of likes, what's the difference? You know what you said, and we know that. Like even from the people who, mashallah, jazakumullah khair, who run the Facebook page, you put something really profound on there, mashallah, life changing, and people read it like 6 likes, and you put something like, I don't know, put photos of at a wedding we went to one time. And it had 200 likes or whatever it was. Go figure, eh? So that's how it should be for the traveller. The one who's going to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, don't worry about all that stuff. Don't put that in your mind. Don't concern yourself with it. Don't make that the purpose of what you're doing. Don't make that the reason why you do things. The reason why you do it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason why we do it is love for the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Trying to emulate the Prophet of Allah sallam, not imitate. Imitate is just to copy. We don't want to do that. We want to emulate, to embody the prophetic way, embody the prophetic character, embody the prophetic philosophy, embody the prophetic ideology, embody the prophetic compassion. Because it's not easy. It's not easy if someone's against you and they're doing all these things and whatever. Like, Habib Umar and these guys and these mashaykh, we came and we saw these people, and then we'd go visit some of our neighbours, and they just talk about him, he's bad and he's this. I'm like, wow, that's how it is. And then this is the funny thing, then they need power or they need water, and they'd go and say Habib Umar, and that's what they're saying is that, or it's just connect up their power, because they had a generator that ran the university, and they just connect up people's power, connected up people's electricity and water and everything, and maruf, they know what's going on. So to have that empathy and that compassion, it's not easy, because our nature is we want revenge and we want justice. It's not always about justice. Actually, even I'm working that out slowly. It's pretty much never about justice. Not for the believer. The believer, as they say, the believer is like the earth. People tread on it. They put the worst of it, like when you want to throw out your rubbish. You know where our rubbish goes? Does anyone know where our rubbish goes? The bag every day you stick outside somewhere. You know where it goes? Right? Goes to a landfill, goes back into the earth. That's the believer. The believer is like the earth. They give us all the rubbish, and what happens after the landfill, except for the plastic back in the days and whatever, what happens to that earth where the landfill goes after years and years and years?
The rubbish,
right, and it becomes what? Fertile. Becomes super fertile, and all the best produce grows on that type of land. So the earth, you give it rubbish, it gives you back awesome produce, vegetation, flowers. That's how the believer. It's not easy. It's not easy. Don't think like that's how we have to be. But no, we want justice. That's what we're all after. That's why we need the Khalifa to come and rule the world. So it's easy for me to be a good person. That's my excuse that I give myself anyway. Well, Khalifa, he's not going to wake me. Like I said, he's not going to come wake you up for Fajr. The Khalifa's not going to come and do that. If you miss Fajr, maybe you'll go to jail or something, depending on the type of Khalifa you have. Maybe you'll just get beaten or something, I don't know. Or that individual who does that. That might happen to that person. But that's not going to change the responsibilities I have to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's for the state to deal with. That's for the, like now, we have governance in this country and no one's happy. We have governments in other countries, and even though we, alhamdulillah, the best lives and whatever else, and we're eating every day, alhamdulillah, and there's no war, we're still not happy. We think it's going to be any different when the Khalifa is around? It's not going to be any different. So, the believer always, that's the embodiment of the prophetic character. Wahshi, he killed his uncle Hamza. Right? They bought him a special slave after Badr, the wife of Abu Sufyan, Hind. She got, Allahumma arda anhuma. They both became Muslims, and they both became excellent Muslims. Right? They specifically said, kill Hamza because of the Prophet's love for Sayyidina Hamza. Wahshi was a spear-throwing African man, and he came, and he got him with the spear. That was the only person that he killed, and he cut his heart, liver, kidney, liver, and then he gave it to Hind, and she ate it. And later on, he came to become Muslim, and the Prophet accepted him, alayhi salatu wasalam. And in Uhud, Khalid ibn Walid came around the mountain, Allah marad anhu, and you know, the 70 shuhada, he's pretty much most of that's on his head. And then when he came to the Prophet ﷺ, he would talk to him. Prophet got his rida and opened it and put it, akramahu. He honored him. He honored him. And that's killing someone that, when people just talk to us or say something, or we heard, even worse, we heard so-and-so said something about us, whatever it might be. And what happens inside? That's the question. What happens inside? Because that's the connection to dunya. Well, you may not do anything about it, but if it's going around your head for 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 3 decades, it's bad. Because that's what that dunya is. It's that attachment. It's that attachment to whatever it might be. It's that connection, that nexus, that attachment is the best word for it. It's that attachment to anything really in the essence other than Allah Azza wa Jal. And the way it manifests itself is in entitlement. That's how it manifests itself. When people are entitled, I'm entitled because I'm an Australian to have lights and whatever it is. But we don't realise where that entitlement comes from. I'm entitled as an Australian to have 50 sets of different clothes and 25 sets of shoes and however many sets of handbags and how many watches and caps and socks and underwears. But if the reality is what? The reality is that we're oppressing as nations, the first world nations, so to speak. 10% of the world's population use 90% of the world's resources. So yeah, we feel entitled to it, and yeah, the system is in our favour because we live in these countries, but in reality, no.
Our today's entitlement is like a mix of both of these, with love of prominence and money at the same time.
So the question is, would you say that today's entitlement is a love of both prominence and money? I certainly would. Especially in the first world. Like alhamdulillah, we wake up to ourselves and we said, first world problems. That should like trigger something in our minds. That it's so trivial and it's so petty that we've even named, which is good, alhamdulillah, because it's letting us see things that, yeah, look man, that's not really an issue. So don't get all caught up about this and don't get all attached. Don't get all attached about this thing, because in the long run, whether it's iPhone 8 or X or whatever it is, 10 or big deal. It's a phone, it works, it answers, it's whatever. Like it's the same, not much difference, whatever. I'm not an expert, so maybe there is a huge difference. But really, in the end, it's just a piece of equipment that allows you to communicate some way, shape or form with others, and it's happening, it's working. So, what he says is, حُبُّ الجاه. It's not necessarily prominence. Jah means position. Position. So it's good as transferred, but it's just a position. It may not be a prominent, but it's a position. It's a position. And today we would have read, inshallah azza wa jalla, Surah Al-Kahf, Subhanalladhi asra ala rasulihi, nabiyihi, habibihi, ala abdihi. What's lower than a abd? What's lower than a slave in human form? In all the different types of human forms and positions and statuses and whatever else there are, what's lower than a abd? What's lower than a slave? What was it? Nothing. Why? Because it's property. Just like this stick is a property, that's the same as a slave. I mean, they've got different rights and whatever, that you can't do certain things to them, whatever. Point being is that in the scale of humanity and statuses from kings down, really that's where it starts, from kings down to slaves. Slaves is the lowest. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying subhan, like how perfect Allah Azza wa Jalla, free from imperfection, how transcendent is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He anzala, that He revealed to His abd. What? He's calling him a abd. Because that's really what we are. That's really the station that, even, and the example is there in the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, who is the most beloved creation to Allah, and the best of all creation, and yet he's being referred to in that manner. But it's not a dhamm, it's not a put down, right? It's not derogatory in that sense. He's saying that because of the risala, that the abd is elevated, because of the deen, because of the connection to Allah Azza wa Jalla, because Allah chose, and Allah selected, and Allah decreed, and Allah decided, then that abd, that lowly, so to speak, becomes something extraordinary. And that's the difference. When one follows the desires, the whims, the fancies, and they're lower than the animals, and then one who follows the word of Allah Azza wa Jalla and does the right thing, they're higher than the angels. So as it's come in different hadith and things like that. So the entitlement, remove the wish to be thought of highly. You know why? Someone, for example, you trip over. Someone was walking on the sidewalk, footpath, and you trip over. Whose fault? Oh, the council. Isn't it the council's fault? They're responsible. Why'd they do this? Why didn't they do that? Can't take responsibility because I'm someone. Whatever that position I've got for myself is. I drive through the red light camera, and then all of a sudden it's revenue raising. It's not safety. So it's that entitlement that I have because of my own perception of who I am as a human being, who I am as a person, because of my education, because of my wealth, because of my connections, because of where I live, because of my height, because of my attractiveness, because of my popularity, because of my humour, because of my whatever it might be, whatever that thing that we attach to ourselves, as human beings, it's that thing that's actually holding us back from Allah Azza wa Jal. That's the thing that's holding us back, because it's a connection of dunya. It's the connection to the worldly things. It's a connection to the things that are not in that's the terrestrial realm. That's this earthly realm, not the celestial, which is up somewhere else. No.
Don't we all have ranks though, or is that like how you were saying it's not terrestrial, it's like higher?
So the question is, don't we all have ranks? Of course we do. Who knows whose rank is where? Who knows who's... That's Allah, the Prophet of Allah, your Shaykh might know, your Shaykh will know for sure, right? These people will know. Someone might know, someone have something, Allah sends them to help you in some way. And then, is that guaranteed? I know my rank now, is that guaranteed in an hour? Right? Depending on what I do and what's going on in the universe and who else is doing what and what Allah wants. It's complex for me. It's a whole network. So yeah, we all, of course, in Allah astafa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevated, ibadihi al-mukhlasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala selected, elected, of course. But we don't give ourselves that rank. That's why abd, the rank that if you want to give yourself anything, if you want to strive to a rank, it should be abd. Servant, slave, whatever, bondsperson, whatever you want to call it. If you want to even consider yourself that, because the person who's the bondsperson doesn't get to think for themselves. I mean, I'm just using it as an example, so take it easy. Doesn't get to think for themselves, choose what they want to eat, choose where they want to sleep, choose what they want to wear. Doesn't do any of those things. They don't make that choice. They don't have a choice in life. They have no choice, right? Whatever their master, owner tells them to do, they do. And that's it. There's no back talking, there's no back thinking, there's no maybe, there's no could be, there's no what about this or what about that. Doesn't work. And we're disassociated from that concept because we don't have slaves in our lives, which alhamdulillah is a good thing. So Allah wants to get rid of that. Allah created people free, He wants them to be free. But they're born into it, etc. So it's a little bit difficult for us to understand. Or the colour of our skin, or the language that we speak, or the religiosity, which is the worst case. Oh, I'm a religious person. I have a makana. Makana is preeminence. What was the word he used? Prominence. So makana is prominence, but jah, which is the word that Imam Haddad uses in the Arabic, is just position. Why am I putting myself in a position? What gives me that right? Did I create myself? No. Did I bring myself into existence? No. Am I maintaining myself in existence? No, I'm not doing that. It's Allah doing that. Am I even choosing when I die? Even people that say, I commit suicide, heaps of people commit suicide, they don't die. Heaps. I think that the rate is a lot lower for men than women, but it's about 40% of people, men who commit suicide, don't actually die, and the rate's higher for women. So you can't even claim that. Can't even claim that. Which is now, I read a statistic the other day, it's just crazy the amount of suicides. Crazy, it's going up in Australia more and more and more and more. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's out of control. So, we don't even have that right. We don't even have that capacity. We don't even have that ability. So how are we trying to give ourselves status? And look at Fir'aun, where he said, وَمَا يَعْرِشُونَ. Is that the word? What they built to climb. Because Fir'aun said to his people, build me something that's going to reach into the sky so I can see Allah. Maybe that's the pyramids, I don't know. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed him. وَمَا يَعْرِشُونَ. Right? So, he said, oh my God. It's what he believed. He got to the stage because he kept on giving himself a status and people around him, you're a God, man. Yeah, that's it, you're cool, whatever. That's the situation he got to. And then now we don't even need to be Fir'aun today because we're greater than Fir'aun. Me, myself, I'm greater than Fir'aun. I can do things and video things and photo things and check around the world and call anyone around the world, and I can turn on power, I can turn off power, I can make day into night, so to speak. I can do all those things. Fir'aun had to grow, stuff. I don't have to grow anything. It's just all around me, and most of it's artificial, whatever. All that, I can make cold hot and hot cold. He couldn't do that. He couldn't cool anything. Fir'aun, right? Pharaoh, he couldn't cool anything, only in winter. That's it. But I can just put it in the freezer. I'm heaps more powerful than Fir'aun. Let's see, he's nothing compared to me. What, is it true or not? You're looking at me with a blank. Of course it's true. It's true. Right? So, if he had less than that, and he thought he was a god, what's going on today? He couldn't just get a gun and shoot someone. He couldn't do that. That didn't happen. He couldn't press a button and a bomb goes off and, whatever, 800,000 people was that in Nagasaki, whatever, 800,000 people die. He couldn't do it. He didn't have that power. He didn't have that power, yet he thought he was a god. We have that power. You can't go from London to New York in however long it takes, 8 hours, 6 hours, whatever it is. He couldn't do that. Didn't have that capacity. And yet he still thought he was a god. So he couldn't do it. 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, 9 lights, whatever it is. He couldn't do that. Impossible. If you want a cup of tea, so you get the guy, chop the wood, bring the wood, turn on the fire, get the water, heat up the water. How long does that take? An hour or two. Probably they had a kettle boiling the whole time, but as an example. Well, now today got that new kettle. As soon as you put the water in, you press the button, it comes out hot straight away. There's no boiling. Even though you got the kettles that boil for like 10 seconds, that's too long now. You just press the button, and it comes out straight away. You can even get them, like if you go to government offices and that, they've got them in the courts and whatever. The tap comes straight out of the water comes out of the faucet. One button for cold, or one button for boiling hot. Qur'an can't do that. Haman can't do that. Namrud can't do that. None of those people could do it. Yet they thought they were gods. And we can do it. And what? We think we're not. And then Maryam, alayhi salam, she had to wait for the angel to bring the fruits of the summer and the fruits of winter. I can get them any time of year. And I don't even have to leave my house. That's the thing. I can just order it and it will come. Yeah? I don't have to have real money. I don't have to have no gold, no silver, nothing. It's nothing, really, literally. I'm using nothing to get something. It's a pretty good deal. Except my time. I have to give my time and my life, effort and sacrifice from whatever I want to do for what someone else wants to do so they can give me that. the point is that it's done. They couldn't do that. So when we think about the reality of Iman and Kufr, that's the reality. Right? That's the reality. For someone to recognize the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this day and age, it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing for someone to see through the facade of all that technology and all those things we spoke about and say behind it is something greater. Behind me is something greater. Now, didn't they attach someone's head the other time as well, the doctors? Right, someone had their head severed and they did a head transplant. Some people need it, I think, but most people are alright without it. So even medicine has got into that level where, don't worry about God, astaghfirullah, I think I'll take care of it for you, come and see me. But when you speak to these super high level doctors, I've spoken to a couple of them, they say, we don't know anything about medicine, we're just scratching the surface. These amazing top of the range professors and really, really top of the range people, they go, we're just scratching the surface, we're just opening the door, we haven't even really done much, because they have a deep understanding of the reality of what they're doing. So that's what entitlement comes from. It's me that did that. It's me. I turned on the light. Yeah, you getting me? Right? I drove in the car I paid my money, I just swiped the card. No swiping anymore. You just put in a couple of numbers and whatever, and they don't even have to do that anymore. You just got a code, and the code attaches to whatever on the computer, and they know who you are, and if you're already a frequent flyer or whatever it is, they just take it automatically out of your account. Whatever the deal, vouchers, whatever the deal is. I'm sitting at home, taking it easy, and I'm doing that, and then flying. Of course, that's going to be an increased veil between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's going to be an extra ghishawa, an extra cover on the heart when a'udhu billahi azza wa jal. But because it's the norm, because we're first world people, not anyone can do that, by the way. Not anyone can do that. Only maybe 400 million people in the world. The white countries, basically. I don't want to be racist, I just want to be a realist. And a few other countries here and there. And now it's starting to increase. Now China's coming into it, and a little bit India's coming into it. But the majority's there. The majority. So we're talking about whatever is 500 million, is it a billion? Whatever the number is, but it's only maximum 15 or 20%. Maximum. In other words, is it the minority or the majority? The minority. When a'udhu billahi azza wa jal. So again, it's not even real. It's just our entitlement, our sense of that. Well, because and it happened when I told you the story. I went to Hajj. They gave us this old rickety 1970s bus and no AC. It was hot as all these things. And then we pulled at the first. I think we prayed Maghrib, and these guys from Tajikistan or Turkmenistan, they don't even know how to get in and out of the bus. Had this new 2015 model bus, mashallah, full AC, and they're all Australians, and they're all complaining. Well, no, Australians, we just came from Lebanon or Pakistan or whatever the other day, but we're Australians. We've been Australians for 10, 15 years, alhamdulillah. All right, and they started complaining. They're looking at these guys coming off this new bus. They didn't really know how to get on or off, but they weren't used to it, And they're how come they should give us that bus, and they should take our bus? I'm why? And they're well, we're used to it. I said, what are they wearing? And they're they're wearing ihram. And what are you wearing? Ihram. Isn't it the point to go there that you're all equal? What difference does it make? That's entitlement. Right? That's entitlement. Or the kid says to their parents, I was thinking about it today actually, I don't know if you know those shoes, Converse Chuck Taylors. Everyone used to have them when we were young. Rubbish shoes, but they were popular. Right? So everyone used to have them and we didn't have them. And I was subhanAllah, how my parents were what do you want those for? Get something better. Get Adidas or something, something good. But that's what was popular. That was popular back in the day. So we felt that we were getting the raw deal because everyone had those shoes and we didn't have those shoes. Entitlement. Why should you have just because everyone else has got it? Is that the reason you should have it? That's not a theory that makes sense. Well, we might want it, but why? Because it's attachment to the dunya. Wa na'udhu billahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's that sense of entitlement that every day I should eat. Every single day, 4 or 5 times or however many times it is, that's it. When sometimes we don't even think about it, we don't even say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, eat, because I'm entitled to it, it's my right. Says who? Says who? Says who's? to your right. We don't even think about the eyes that Allah Azza wa Jal gave us and the fact that Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen we can see. Or don't worry about that we can even blink. Or don't worry about that because if we didn't blink, we wouldn't be able to see after only a few minutes. It only takes a few minutes. If our eyes didn't blink automatically, after a few minutes they would dry up and then we wouldn't be able to see anymore. Or the fact that our brain can process the information that's coming through our eyes and we can make sense of that. But it's an entitlement, because we didn't really have to strive and struggle. It just came. And why the princes the way they are? The princes and the princess. When someone's a bit, entitled, we call them a princess. Yeah, they don't say it for prince, but because prince is charming. So it must be a gender thing, unfortunately, misfortunately, right? So why? Because they're entitled. They grew up in the palace. They didn't have to go and dig trenches, and when it rained, it didn't leak because the palace was everything, right? The palace was the big building and everyone lived around it for protection. Anything happened, they would come to the castle and whatever else. So they didn't have to worry about it. That's why they were brats, for the use of a better word. They didn't have to, and that's how we've become. We've become. Because of entitlement. When have you in your whole life did you ever think of, let's say, where is that thing? Giving it up, for example. I know it's like a really big thing. Yeah? وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Is this a need? Kind of. Maybe if you're in business. So in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, guests came to Medina and no one really had food at that time except one family had food. And we're talking about food here. Right? They put their kids to bed without food and they gave the guests the food and they dimmed the oil lamp and they pretended like they were eating, but there was not enough food for one person. They let the guests eat. And then Allah Azza wa Jal revealed the verse, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. That they, al-ithar is they give up what they need, even though they give up what they had, even though they were more in need of it. That's the believer. It's not the extra. The extra is where we should start, because you can't get to that one without starting. And whenever did you ever think of sending it, just as an example, you know what I mean? I know it's got information and you need it and for work and whatever else, and it's a necessity these days. You can't really get it. You can't really survive. Maybe you don't need a smart. You probably do actually. It's pretty something you can't live without anymore. That's it. It's come to that stage. Point being is, when was it that there was a collection of something for something, and then I said that no, I'm ready to give half or whatever. I'm not saying that that's what you should give. You've got to work it out for yourself. But the connection. Or even less than that, to say that if I had $1 million, Ya Allah, I would have given that $1 million, or 100,000, or 10,000, or 5,000, or 100, or whatever it was. Because a person who thinks like that is disassociated from the world. In other words, associated from the worldly, materialistic, commercialistic aspects of the world in which we live in. And the headstone of that, as the Imam said, and as the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, he said, he says, فَإِنَّ حُبَّ الْجَاهِ أَضَرُّ عَلَى صَاحِبِهِ مِنْ حُبِّ الْمَالِ وَكِلَاهِمَا دَالَّانِ عَلَى الرَّغْبَةِ فِي الدُّنْيَا. So the basis of love of prominence is to love being considered, sorry, I missed it. For the love of prominence is more harmful than that of money, and both indicate desire for the world. So it goes back to the desire. I'm special, in other words. Like people say it. People say it, you know what I mean? Like, and they teach their kids that. That's the thing that's even crazier, right? Your kid doesn't listen to you, and then you're teaching the kid, oh, you're special, buddy. You know, mate, you're special because why? Because you're my kid, and I'm special. That's why. And then later on, when the child doesn't listen, they go up and Sheikh, my daughter, my son, the guy's 22. What do you want me to do for him? You know, if you took him when he was 7, bring him when he was 8, when he was 9, 10, and then it's someone else's fault. That's why he's bringing the Sheikh, because it's Allah's fault. Wasn't. Yeah, that's the reality. That's the reality. Why isn't he ringing social services? Really? Why isn't he ringing childcare? I'm serious. Why isn't he ringing a psychologist or a psychiatrist? He's ringing the Sheikh. That's Allah's fault. I did my part, Ya Allah. I sent him to an Islamic school. What was going on at home? Lying, stealing, bludgeoning off the government, you know, he's disrespectful to his wife and whatever, puts her down in front of the kids, you know, whatever's going on. And how do you expect the kid to be straight after that? If there's not a loving, nurturing environment in the home, how's the kid? Because, you know, I'm the man and I have to do what I have. Where's that in the Qur'an? Where's that in the prophetic tradition? Where's all these things? Where's that? So, that's the thing. We have a sense of entitlement, and we train our kids and we bring them up with a sense of entitlement. That whatever they want, I've even heard parents say that. Shaykh, I've done everything for my kids. Okay, whatever they want, I've got them. So is that everything? Really? What happened to tough love? Tough love is the best. Tough love shows that you really love your kids. But when you give them something, it shows that you couldn't be bothered. Like PlayStation. Actually, the Shaykh today, the first khutbah that he gave was about that. It was really good, mashallah. It was really poignant and it was really relevant. It's like, you know, you give him I don't know if that's what they're still using. Is it still PlayStation or is it the same? Yeah. So it's still PlayStation, right? Give him the PlayStation. Really, what does that mean? It means leave me alone. Really, that's what it means. Really, it means listen. You play with your toy. I got my toy, and that's it. We'll just, you know. What happened to camping? You know, what happened to like, Dad's going to do something or Mum's going to do something. Come along with me. Kids don't really care. They just want time. Just give them attention. That's really what they want. But we don't want to give that because I'm entitled. My time, exactly. Right? I'm someone. What do you mean? I can't just, even my kid, don't worry about it. And then later on when A'udhu Billah, problems. When A'udhu Billah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, yeah, exactly. And then reel him in. You can't do it. It's impossible for that person to be reeled in. And then he says, وأصل حب الجاه حب التعظيم والعظمة والعظمة من صفات الله فهو منازعة للرب. Okay, this is heavy duty because this is where it comes to the actual point. It says the basis of the love of prominence, and it's not just position, whatever it may be, is to love being considered great by others. Now greatness is one of God's attributes. And this thing is therefore disputing His lordship. We're all God's. I have light. Let there be light. Isn't that the first thing that's in the Bible or something? I haven't read it in a long time, but right? I can do that. Off, on, off, 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 off. Now you don't have to do that. Now it's clap. You don't have to do that. You can just type it into your phone. There's an app that controls the lights in your house. And they come on whenever you want to come on and go off. When your oven, the air conditioning. So when you get home, everything's perfect. 24 degrees, winter and summer. Like, have you noticed that when it's hot, people don't even they don't like it when it's hot. They don't like it when it's cold. Go live in like Bermuda or somewhere. Like there's a reason you're supposed to sweat in summer. It cleans your body out. You're supposed to be cold in winter. Cleans your body. Like there's reasons for these things to happen. There's reasons why you eat citrus fruit in winter because it protects you against the fever and whatever. There's a reason why you eat like watermelon and these fruits in summer because it gives you energy to keep going. Summer's a busy time. There's reasons for these things. You can't shut out the universe because you can turn on your thingo. Like some people, I know people that are like that. They're in the car, the AC's on. At home, they're in the AC. At work, they're at the AC. What for? Don't worry about summer, winter then. Don't worry about that. Just carry, soon they're going to have like a bubble, AC bubble, you walk around in it. Or an AC suit or something like that. And you just always perfectly 24 or 23 or whatever it is. It doesn't make sense. Like, that's again, control. Right? Oh my God. I control even the weather. That's the reality of, whether we like it or not, that's the reality of the dunya. And he says that it's one of Allah's attributes. Al-Azim subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sifa min sifatillah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وقد قال صلى الله, he says وحب الدنيا وأصل حب التمتع, missed the part of it, وأما حب المال فإنما أصله حب التمتع بالشهوات وذلك من صفات البهائم. So on one side is the love of oneself, right? That's what it is, self-worship. And the other side of it is enjoying desires. Right? In other words, unfettered whatever I want. He says he says, The base of love of money is the love of enjoying one's desires, and this is the attribute of animals, because that animals only have instinct. So the instinct that comes, a cow, what does it do all day? That's it, it grazes. All day grazing. That's it. Every day. All day grazing. That's its desire. Desire is to eat grass. Imagine if we were like that. You know? Imagine whatever the shahwa is. To sleep, you know, to be comfortable. That's all, they're all desires.
Do what feels good.
Right? Follow your nafs, basically. When all the blood's destruction. It's been tried throughout history. It's not what we mentioned Fir'aun. Like, it's not something new that just popped up now. This is the story of humanity. And not even from the time of the Prophet of Allah ﷺ, but from the time of Adam ﷺ, Habil and Qabil, the first issue. Even before that, between Adam and Shaitan, and Hawa, all the way back. He says, in other words, wanting to enjoy one's desires all the time, even sexual, well, I know we don't like to speak about it, but we have to, even sexuality. Right? Who's the king of it? Lions. They say they copulate 50 times a day. That's a lot. 50 is a lot. But they're animals. That's what they do. They copulate, they breed, they eat, they die. They eat and they defecate and they die. That's basically what they do. They don't have their function isn't any more than that. And each according to their position in the food chain. That's it. And what they do affects the environment around them. It's all tied together. It's all tied together, but it's not us. We have a higher purpose than eating, copulating, defecating and dying. Our purpose is much higher than that. So he says that's what money is, and like that's what he's saying. But remember we spoke about ages ago that these super wealthy people, why they need to do it, like the dudes that buy islands and whatever else. Look, and for them it goes back to the first one. For most of the people that are there, they want to leave their mark on the world. It's not about the money. It's about saying that I did something that no one else did. That my name's up there in history, you know, etched in stone, or I'll be remembered, or whatever that stuff is. What does that relate to? The first point. So in my view, in the time we live in, that it actually all goes back to that. It actually all goes. Some of those guys live pretty frugal lives, like that guy Jimmy Buffett. He's a super wealthy investor, super wealthy. He drives like a 1978 Cadillac or some junky car. He lives in a pretty simple house. He says, I'd rather use my money to invest. I don't know what he needs more money for. I don't know, but it's a shahwa. Right? So Imam Haddad's right in that regard as well. It's a desire, and probably both tied together. He also wants to be remembered as the best investor, the best this, the best that, whatever it is. Legacy, exactly right. Exactly right. He says, the Prophet of Allah ﷺ says, وَقَدْ قَالَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّلَاةُ وَالسَّلَامُ, we do it in English. The Prophet, may the blessings and peace be upon him, has said, God the Exalted says, greatness is my lower garment and pride is my upper garment. I shall cast anyone who disputes with me with regard to either of them into the hellfire, and two hungry wolves that let loose into the sheep's fold will not devastate it more than do the love of prominence and money in a Muslim's religion. So those two ahadith, those two narrations of the Prophet of Allah, they speak for themselves. A person can't be entitled with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's a challenge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qudra and irada, power and will. That's what's happening. If I'm entitled to eat, that's it. I'm Aussie, whatever, white, I'm whatever I am, so therefore I'm entitled to eat. Then what have I done? I've said to Allah that you don't know what you're doing, Allah. Right? That's what I'm basically saying to Allah. You don't know who to taqsim al-arzak. You don't need to divide the sustenance too. But I know, and I'm one of those people, and I should have it. That's what it comes back down to. Or, again, tripping over the sidewalk, from the simplest of examples. It's not my fault that I wasn't paying attention, or it's not that Allah Azza wa Jalla made me trip to make me realize something, or save me from whatever the situation might be. I'm trying to, blame someone else when Allah Azza wa Jalla. It's the same thing. Saying, Allah, why should I have tripped here? Ya Allah, don't you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? I'm somebody. Why am I tripping? Why am I tripping? Alright, and then he says that two hungry wolves let loose on a bunch of sheep will do less destruction than the destruction that prominence, the love of prominence and money will do to a Muslim's faith. Why? Why do you think that's the case after what we said? Yeah, you have to think, I know. It's a bit challenging. Get everyone else, someone else answer Hajj. Jazakallah khairan. Why do you think that's the case? So read it again, the hadith. 2 hungry wolves let loose into the sheep's fold will not devastate it more than do the love of prominence or position and money in a Muslim's religion. After everything you've heard in the last however long.
They'll be consumed with this dunya. They'll be consumed with this dunya.
Why? Why though? I'm with you, that's true.
Because once they have pride and money, they just want more. No one's ever satisfied.
Right?
And just like wolves in a sheep's den, they will just continue eating and eating till there's no more sheep. Same with us.
Okay.
And money.
That's true. Go back to the other hadith just above it and that'll give you the hint. Can't be that hard, can it?
And then they'll be competing with Allah.
Right? How can one worship Allah when they've put themselves on a pedestal somewhere near? That doesn't work that way. What is it? Who's Allah and what are we?
His slaves.
Right? MashaAllah alaikum. Ahlan wa sahlan. Right? So that's the ubudiyyah. That's the level of difference. The master, the owner, the malik, and the abd, the slave. And any encroachment whatsoever on the rububiyyah of Allah Azza wa Jal, on the lordship of Allah Azza wa Jal, means we are no longer, or that individual is no longer a slave. No longer a slave means what do they have? No deen. Right, no deen. Entitlement means no deen. They can't work together. It's impossible for those things to be happening at the same time. How can I say I'm worshipping Allah, yet in my own heart, in my own ittijah, in my own estimation, I've got a position somewhere or other? How can that work? It's like saying to the boss, look, I know you're the boss, right? I know you're the boss, but I want to do it this way. Well, hold on a second. I pay your wages. You're under a contract to do whatever it is. If you don't like it, you can go somewhere else. But with Allah, where are you going to go? There's only one dunya. You've only got one life, and they're all His. It doesn't work that way. Yeah? So was it that hard to figure out, or was it just like everyone's tired and they're like, I want to go home, or what? You have to be young and virile and strong and switched on to work it out. But you guys are all young, mashallah.
I'm doing it like shaitan. So that's shaitan had arrogance. Because ultimately that's what it is, it's a synonym for arrogance. Because when you have that love of prominence and that love of position, it's a type of arrogance.
Certainly it is.
So when you have that arrogance, that's your ultimate demise. It's not compatible with belief.
Yeah. So the question is about, well, the comment was about arrogance, and this is a type of arrogance. It certainly is. So what the scholars do is they divide up the different aspects of one's soul, one's mind. So because there are different ways that a person, and unlimited almost ways that a person can fall into these traps. And so arrogance can be formed through knowledge, through millions of different things. And although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the hadith al-kibriya, which is what it leads to, but the door that it comes through is something that we may not consider, that entitlement. That's something that we may not, like we might consider the person who's arrogant as really big and strong, or really educated, or really wealthy. But sometimes the khafi, the unseen, unhidden things, we can't pick up on it. Why? Just because I want to eat doesn't mean, or I want to enjoy the world doesn't mean that, well, it does. If one's station changes from ubudiyyah, from any type of servanthood, slavehood to Allah, any type above that, anything above that, means they're jeopardizing their relationship with Allah Azza wa Jal. It means they're jeopardizing the contract they have of being a creation, and one being a creator, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and us being a creation. It becomes jeopardized now, because one is saying to Allah, yeah, hold on a sec, but Allah. Hold on. Wait about this. Consider that. Wait a minute. How can you challenge the all-knowing, the all-seeing, the all-hearing, the all-powerful? How can a person even think to even question, as like you said, shaitan did in that time? How can a person even think to do that? How can a person even think to say that, wait a minute, right? How can a person even Yatajarra, they say, like be so open with it, and that's how we are. And even one of the worldly things for us as Aussies, the fact that there isn't really any kind of hierarchy. Everyone's just everyone, which is good because it's humble. But at the same time, because there's no hierarchy, that's our relationship with Allah. Like, it's Allah, He's my mate, Like, that's how we kind of take it. Yeah, sure, you're right, mate. We hang out, me and Allah, we just chill. All right. In a sense, yeah, but not really. In a sense, yeah, because that's not because of who I am, that's because of who He is, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the increase of ubudiyah, is it hot in here or is it just me? All right. So the more I increase in ubudiyah, the more I increase in what's the inkisar? There's the different synonyms that are used, but for the purpose of the dunya, the more I increase in disassociating myself from the ephemeral, the more I increase in associating myself with the eternal or the metaphysical, if that makes sense. So the more I worry about things, the less I can worry about Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more I'm connected to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, the less I'm going to worry about things. Because I know that He's the one who provides when He wills. When He wills and He decides. When He decrees subhanahu wa ta'ala. When that happens, it's going to happen. So for the person who's a abd, who's a slave, was going to ask his boss, his owner, oh, get me this, get me that, oh, I want to eat now. Doesn't get that choice. There are rules that go around that, and that's not the case, Islamically speaking, for it. But I'm just giving it as an example. Then that individual will truly start to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will truly start to transcend physically and emotionally and spiritually and mentally to being what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. And then when that person is that way, then that's when Allah will elevate that person. Because they won't be maghrur, deluded by the things that happen in the world. So if Allah wanted to elevate someone who's connected to the dunya, once they get a bit of dunya, what's going to happen to that person? Yeah, and what's going to happen in the worldly things they have? What's going to happen? Worldly things, that's going to be their God in the end, right? That's going to be their connection. That's going to be what they rate themselves with. It's not going to be Allah anymore. Allah gave them those things. Remember we talked about this at the beginning of this thing. Allah gave them those things because that's the priority. The person's priority person whose priorities are, right? So we'll finish on this note. The person whose priorities are money, right? Money. They'll do what to get money? Including breaking the Sharia. Yeah? So stealing, lying, whatever. So that's on one side of the scale. Or one side of the scale, not the actual literal scale, but the scale, the pie, whatever it is, the pie chart, whatever it is. Right? That's on one side of the scale. People who are after material things and they'll lie and cheat and kill and maim and oppress and enslave to get that. Yeah? That's none of us, Mahak. Inshallah. And then there's the other side, the people who have, which is the majority of us, who have the entitlement of self. Right? So have a think about it for a sec. I want you to think. So the person who's after the objective things, they'll lie, kill, do all these things to get it. Someone who's after position, what will they do to get their position?
Exactly.
Right? Pretty much. And even more subtle things like what? Backbiting, right? Manipulating, riba, namima, remember that we spoke about all that vice of the tongue? So they're the ones that's easier to fall into, because when our image of ourselves gets challenged by anybody, then we're like, no, I'm so-and-so. I'm so-and-so. How can that be the case? Because I've done and I've been and I've gone and I've seen and I've whatever. So all of a sudden, either I have to lie to make up for it, or I have to talk bad about someone else to make myself feel better, or I have to, do whatever, whatever the story is. Maybe it might end up being killed, but that's a little bit further. That one is more to the worldly things. The things that are attached with the position are generally involved with the tongue. Generally speaking, They're involved with, I learned with this sheikh and I studied, and then they'll want to lie on the tongues of someone. I heard this sheikh saying that when they never actually said it, because they're trying to win the argument. Because I'm an educated person, how can I lose the argument to that person? And you get the idea? You get the. So that's why, like, alhamdulillah, we've been learning all those different things. So we're learning what they are, and then as the Imam teaches us the reality of those things in our lives, then we know where they come up. And we know that the way they affect our lives, and the way they affect our psyche, and the way they affect our sayyid, our progression to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they all tie in. They all tie in all these things, inshaAllah. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.